Mic check, mic check.
Mic check.
Microphone check.
Mm-hmm.
Bienvenidos, amigos, and welcome back to another episode of the More Life Diaries podcast. And today we have a Q&A or reaction to some of your comments that you've left in previous videos of ours. So we're going to be elaborating a little bit more on some of the comments or questions that we would otherwise in other types of videos. So if that's your thing, please don't forget to subscribe. If you have any questions or comments,
leave them down
hit
there.
the section down below.
And disclaimer as always, this is a podcast. It's just us talking, answering your questions. There's no
B-roll.
No.
So there's not going to be any videos. It's just us. If that's your thing, stay tuned. If not, we have walking tours, vlogs, cost of living episodes. We have a lot more on our page, so definitely check that out. And also follow us on Instagram or Facebook. We are pretty active on there. We post daily about our life here in Mexico, things that we're doing. So if you want to get to know us a little bit more, if you want to see a little bit more content, a lot of beach days, a lot of tacos, head over to Instagram and Facebook and give us a follow there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So as we said, we're going to be pulling up some of the questions or comments from previous videos. And also I drop like Instagram stories every now and then asking if people have any questions so that we can answer them on here.
Mm-hmm.
The first one comes from our good friend, Tito Tev.
Tito Tev.
And he says, what's the one thing from back home you wish Mexico had? Suko Thai. And Suko Thai, just for reference, is like a good Thai restaurant we used to go
I do
with
miss
Tito Tev quite
yes.
a bit.
I miss Suko Thai and Tito Tev.
Well, funny enough, me and Kathleen were just talking about this yesterday. We were saying, like, when we go back home, which we plan on doing this year at some point, like, what are the things you're going to want to eat? Like, what's the one first thing you're going to want to eat? And what's it for you?
It was hard to narrow down. Suko Thai would be up there.
The issue is too that we're like, it's probably not going to be the same. Like Suko Thai was our favorite Thai restaurant from back home. And even throughout like a couple years that we were there, it kind of fell off.
Yeah, that's true. Sorry, Suko. But I would say probably Indian food and also baklava. We used to go to this bakery on the Danforth, which is the Greek area in Toronto, and they had amazing baklava.
It's a little bit of an addiction.
It was a problem.
You're addicted every time when you're buying more baklava than you did the previous time.
Yeah, and the box was heavy every time. Yeah. But yeah, I think those would be the two places that the two foods that we would hit up first.
Yeah, definitely some good authentic Indian food. We had our spot. Even some good what was that? Cham scenes. What kind of food is that? Like Middle Eastern maybe?
Food. Yep.
What else?
I'm heading to my tita's house and just eating all of the food that they have.
Some Filipino food, some Jamaican food for sure.
Yeah, just international food. Like basically Toronto's international food scene is great.
Don't get us wrong. I crave tacos on a daily basis. I am not tired of tacos. I'm not tired of birria, al pastor, nothing.
We'll miss it when we're in Toronto.
Yeah, sure. I just like once in a while, it's nice to switch it up, which we don't really do here much. There is international food, but we're like, I don't know. Let's just get tacos.
Yeah, it doesn't hit the same
here
as Toronto anyways. But also I miss thrifting. I know you miss thrifting.
Oh yeah.
I miss a good secondhand deal.
Yeah. We'll definitely it'll be like getting food, getting dessert, going to a thrift store, getting some good deals.
Sitting in grass and
yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much what we missed from Toronto. Hopefully, we get to go back and do that at some point. It's on our to-do list to like go back for at least a month, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Take care of certain things, but also just spend time with family, which we're at the point now where my family's here, which is good, but friends and family back home,
Mm-hmm.
just to go visit them would be really nice.
Yeah, and like depending on what time of year that is, obviously I miss the fall weather a lot. It would be nice to kind of have that experience as well
Hmm.
for the kids.
Next up, I'm curious, have you and the family gone to a soccer game there, or baseball, or any pro sports? And we have not, but it's definitely something that I'd love to do.
Mhm.
Like we have the Jalisco Charros, or there's Guadalajara Chivas as well. I'd love to go see the Chivas in Guadalajara. When we lived in Santiago, we went to a couple of Colo Colo soccer matches, which was like a really good experience. We still talk about it to this day.
It's intense.
Yeah, super intense rioting.
Tear
We
gas.
bought tickets in the hooligan section by accident, just based on the price. Now we know why they're cheaper.
I think
Uh,
the whole place was a hooligan
it turns
section.
up. It definitely turns up. So we definitely love to go see both, I'd say, baseball and a soccer match.
Mhm.
Soccer being more interesting, I'd say, to go watch
For
live.
us,
Yeah.
yeah, like we're not really huge baseball. Well, if you're wearing a baseball jersey
um,
for the look.
there are baseball matches here in PV. Like we have at the stadium, there's a baseball field. So I know there's been some pro matches there.
Mhm.
And tickets are like pretty affordable too, but we just haven't gotten the chance to go.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. We'll try to obviously document that if we do go, or document some of it. But I love going to see like soccer matches specifically.
Mhm.
Um, so on the subject of languages, I have to bite my tongue a bit. I'm not going to read this verbatim, but um, some tourists complain or say, why don't they speak English? Obviously, talking about Mexicans. And we talk about this over and over. You should never travel to a different country that speaks a different language and expect people to speak English. You should be
Or
expecting
whatever your language is.
whatever the language is, you should be expecting to speak the local language always. And again, like in reference to when we traveled to and lived in Santiago in Chile, it's a main city, like
Capital
it's
city.
a capital city of Chile, and we were taken back by how little English there was. Like no one spoke English there.
Yeah, very little English, which is why we
Mhm.
were there to teach English. So I guess that's why we were needed. But
Yeah.
yeah, like here, I would say that most, especially if you're in the tourist areas, it's going to be easy for you to find someone that speaks English or even French. But yeah, like learning, this person says, learning 50 words in a language isn't hard. I mean, just to get by, to order your coffee, that type of thing, a few numbers.
Yeah.
And
And I think just and this person mentions this as well. Like it's just fun to get to learn at least some of the basic words, basic greetings, how to ask for stuff. And if you're self-conscious about how you pronounce things, like don't be that way, because it's just funny to mess up, to
yeah, if
you
you
know you
mess
want
up,
the person to correct you because you
mhm.
want to be saying it right. It's just like let go of your ego and just accept that you're going to mess up. We do all the time, and we're like, we hope someone tells us.
And then you have a good laugh. And that's what this person said. Like,
Yeah.
just have a laugh about it. It's okay. Like, the effort is definitely appreciated.
Yeah.
So, we 100% agree with this person. Understandably, if you are coming for, a couple days on a cruise ship, like, that's one thing. But if you're coming here for an extended period of time, yeah, learn 50 words or so, be able to like throw a couple things out there and get by. It'll make your life easier, and, it can just equate to a lot of funny moments, funny memorable moments of you
Memorable,
trying.
yeah. And like you're getting to learn, a new language, you're developing, that side of your brain. It's just a fun thing, and that's greatly appreciated um by the locals
Yeah.
here. So beach life comment is about driving and crossing the street here in Mexico. And it's funny because Most of these comments are regarding our tips video, the last video. I'll link it down below. And we talk about who has the right of way, and it's never the pedestrian. The pedestrian, if you get hit by a car, you ain't making it out. But if you hit the car will be fine. So there's a lot of confusion with tourists or even uh, people that move here, like who has the right of way. Back home, if the light is green, you have the right of way.
Well, first of all, back home, there's a walking and don't walk sign.
Yeah.
They don't have those here, at least not in Puerto Vallarta. So you kind of have to know what's going on. And there is a lot going on at intersections. I still don't really, know. Like it looks like
People
the people
turning,
here are
people running
stopped,
red
but yeah,
lights.
there's a lot going on. So I would recommend that number one, don't cross at the intersection. Like it's actually safer to not because if you're not at the intersection, you're just going when there's no cars. You just have to look both ways and you're good.
Yeah.
But what else? Did she say anything?
And this includes also like stop signs. A lot of the stop signs here are suggestions. There's a lot of cars just driving through, even if there are people waiting to cross the road at the stops. A lot of cars won't stop, they just roll through. So, again, like the most important thing is that you know that you never have the right of way. So, just make sure that all the cars are stopped before you cross. And even then, make eye contact. So, yesterday we're in the car at an intersection, all the cars are stopped. And then there's two
Foreigners.
foreigners that are just crossing. They look like so out of place.
Oh.
I was still scared they'd get hit, even though all the cars were stopped. And then a Mexican woman is crossing and she's making eye contact with every
And
driver
she's like, "Hey,
and
I'm
smiling like,
crossing."
"Hey, I'm crossing." We're at a red light. No one's going anywhere, but she made sure to like make that eye contact with the drivers of the car. And we're like, that's what we were talking about in our video.
Exactly
So
that. And I know we're saying that the pedestrians don't have the right of way. It's not that the cars are going to try to hit you. You just need to be a little bit more like you can't just depend that everyone's going to stop for you and like walk looking at your phone. Like you need to pay attention.
mhm.
You need to make the eye contact and you need to be very deliberate when you're crossing the street. Even if you think there's a red light, because there's all these other things that are happening, even when this light is red, then there's people that are making left-hand turns from the right-hand lane, which you're already not used to if you're from Canada or United States. So yeah, just pay attention.
And a
And
lot of motorcyclists cut through cars,
yeah,
even at red lights. Like you think all the cars are stopped, but there's, a motorcycle that will shoot to the front of the line. So just always be aware, even if all the cars are stopped, as you pass a car, look through to make sure like there's no motorcyclists coming in hot.
and for the neighborhood intersections, a lot of times there aren't stop signs, or like Mark said, they're suggestive. So right away, like people will stop for you if you make the eye contact and you let them know that you intend on crossing. They'll
Mhm.
wave you across, and you'll see that if you're looking at them. So wait for that. And if all else fails, find an old lady that's crossing the street because they will 100% stop for them, and
Yeah.
then it's safe to walk. And
Yeah.
you got time.
Which has we've seen many times. We're getting into a little bit of a controversial topic about tipping. So
Ooh.
the next few ones will be about tipping. This person commented, "My tip to Americans and Canadians is not to tip much because when us Mexicans go to the restaurants, they expect us to tip as much." So the reason this is very controversial, tipping here in Mexico, and I'm assuming in a lot of other countries as well, is that um, it's different everywhere. Like we're accustomed to tipping in Canada between 15 to 20%.
Mhm.
Um, there's a lot of memes about it that it
Memes.
like never stops. Like people just are always expecting more and more and more tip. And the issue is that it's gone completely out of hand in the United States and Canada. Like the tipping culture is absolutely insane. There's a lot of jokes online where like the person is microwaving your sandwich and brewing you like a coffee and turns the iPad around and expects you to tip like 20, 30%
Yeah,
and is just looking at you until you hit it.
like I went to a cookie store in Canada and bought just cookies that were already sitting there. The person just put the cookies in the box and they turned around and there's a tip. So it
And
is.
it's different if you're getting, if you again, if you're going to a coffee shop and they're making your sandwich by hand and they're
Mhm.
brewing you like a
No, let me
specialty coffee.
this is co let me tell you, okay, in Canada, I don't know here or anything, but, like, in Canada, I was a server, you get a different wage. You get a lower wage, and you are dependent on those tips. So, it is important that people who you're serving tip you because otherwise, essentially what ends up happening is that you are paying for them to eat because you have to tip out based on your sales. So, if you're selling $1,000 worth of food at the restaurant, not $1,000 worth of your tips, what you sold in food, you have to tip out a certain percentage to the kitchen and to the bar, let's say. That's probably the same in the States. I don't know how it works here,
And
but
the restaurant workers make like half of
half.
minimum wage, which is that's an issue in
I mean,
itself.
yeah, there's a whole
Yeah.
issue around that. So that is why tipping is generally important. If you are going somewhere like a cookie store where they're making probably minimum wage, but a regular standard minimum
Mhm.
wage, they're dependent on their wage, not the tips. The tips are just a bonus.
A
So it's kind of
bonus, yeah.
weird when they flip that around on you. And I think coffee shops are the same. I believe baristas are making
Yeah.
just general minimum wage or whatever wage that they're given, not the server wage, which is lower. So that's why it's kind of ridiculous to expect to have to tip or to tip 20% on a coffee.
Yeah.
That's just especially like if you're going to Starbucks and you have all these like crazy, I want, half foam, double shot, whatever,
Yeah.
and it's all extra. But if you're like us who just like, just give me a black
Like
coffee.
the dark roast
Yeah,
coffee, black.
that's
Don't
sitting
even put
there.
milk or sugar in it.
Like for us to have, like it's kind of weird,
Yeah.
but I don't know, and I would be really curious for people who are Mexican listening to this. Let us know how that works exactly here. Like, is it a different wage for servers? Um,
Yeah,
and
the wage part is the biggest thing that I'm concerned about. I am assuming they make minimum wage at least. But yeah, that's just a messed up thing in the United States and Canada that like they get very little wage and expect tips. But in regards to this person's comment here, like tipping very little in almost every single country outside of Canada or the United States, tipping is 10% or less, sometimes non existent. We've noticed that when we have traveled.
Mhm.
If you're getting service, if you're taking a tour, that's a little bit different. But again, it's always about 5 to 10%. So for us to be tipping 15, 20, 25, it is very high. It's become a cultural standard, I'd
Yeah.
say, for us. And just speaking on, people who do tip that much here, versus Mexicans local that don't tip as much. And sometimes that might not even be able to afford to tip that much, which is like me and Kathleen can't afford tipping 20% more than our meal at like nicer restaurants.
That's
I
why we
think
don't go
that
there.
the expectation shouldn't be that local Mexican people tip that much.
But I am
Like,
curious though, just because this person made that comment, like what is the standard for a Mexican local
mhm.
to tip at a like what is the general expectation from them?
From my understanding from comments is that it's not that
It's
much.
just whatever you want
Yeah,
to. Okay.
it's like not that much. But that being said, like it is still a touristy town
It is.
and people are here on vacation, people are spending money. So I don't have an issue with, Canadians coming here for a couple weeks and tipping 15 to 20% if they have the money to.
Especially like I'm assuming these are the type of restaurants that kind of attract
Yeah.
um the veggies, the veggies and the rice.
Yeah.
Like the nicer restaurants that attract tourists or foreigners that would expect that. And I know I have read certain things that if you're going to a taco stand or if you're even it's a like a Pepe's type
Mhm.
deal where maybe you have seating, but it's not like a full serve type of situation that you don't need to tip as much. I know that there's like variations of the tipping expectation,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure what it is. And I think, yeah, typically in tourist focused establishments, there would be an expectation of a higher tip.
Yeah. And yeah, it's like a cultural thing for us, I'd say. Americans and Canadians. But if it's not, the cultural thing here, that's fine. But again, it
It's
is
a
an
tourist
economy depending on
on
tourism to
tourism.
a big extent. So, while it's high season, people should definitely,
Yeah, people are trying to work a lot
yeah,
now because this is when all the tourists are here and like they are dependent on that money. So,
for sure.
um, yeah, I don't know.
And it's a messed up thing if like you go to a restaurant and I don't know how they would serve you expecting you to knowing you were going to tip a lot. Like the tip is at the end, so the service should always be the same. I don't know again if like Mexicans go to restaurants and are treated not as good as Canadians. I'd assume it could be the opposite to a certain extent,
Well, I'm
but
also wondering just because here in Puerto Vallarta, there's the tourism, and then there's a lot of foreigners who live here, like most of the time or full time,
yeah.
like us. So, like, is there like what is the expectation? Like, can they tell that these are tourists versus people who just live here from another country? And
Yeah.
is there a different expectation, or is it all the same? Yeah, like
Hey, if you work in a restaurant, reach out to us
yeah,
because
let us
we'd
know.
love
Like,
to
we are
know
actually
more.
genuinely curious. Is there a different
Yeah.
are we
It's
received differently than the tourists if we live here? Like, what are the feelings there?
and again, like it's difficult for us to know and maybe even relay the message if we don't know
Mhm.
because there's so many mixed things online. We've done some research on Facebook. A lot of people complain that tourists don't tip enough. A lot of people complain that they do. Our message is always tip what you can, based on the service that you got, no
Mhm.
matter what that amount is. Like tip as much as you want, as long as it doesn't like break the bank for you. Don't go broke, trying to tip everyone. But if you're comfortable tipping 20%,
Then
do
yeah, do
so.
so, and if
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
The other comment, which is also in regards to tip, which kind of segues from our previous comment, was I was laughing when you were talking about tips. When I was a teen, I worked in Puerto Vallarta with tourists. Our worst time was when Canadians arrived. We knew them for being not very good tippers, specifically French Canadians. And then there's a
ooh.
few follow up comments that French Canadians are not the best tippers.
Well, can I just say, first of all, as a general blanket to Canadians, I find that so shocking because it is standard in Canada to do 15 to 20% at a restaurant. And like honestly, everything we were saying before, like you got to tip your hairdresser, your barber, the person at the front of any sort of takeout food thing, like they are asking for a tip. So it's kind of shocking that people would come here and not tip.
Yeah, even a follow up comment was it's standard to tip 15 to 20%. Like, I don't know why all of us get a bad rap. None of us are French Canadians. Someone's trying to like disassociate
I'm
with
about to
French.
disassociate.
So
Mark
it's
is
fun.
French
I'm
Canadian.
French Canadian, and it's just funny to me. Again, some people are offended. Some people take this thing very serious. To me, it's just funny. Um, but I didn't know that French Canadian people were so bad at tipping. And the comments are too frequent for it to be like a one-off type of thing. Obviously, there's a lot of like generalization. Not everyone will be a bad tipper, but yeah, I have no idea. Let us know down in the comments if you're French Canadian, like what is going on. I know that the standard is like Canada wide 15-20%.
Mm.
It could be, I have a few theories. Like it could be that they just don't know how much to tip here. Like they're probably reading maybe 5 or 10% as a standard. So I really have no idea. But also another theory of mine, and we just kind of just talked about this. A lot of French Canadian people are here for a longer period of time. So 3 to 6 months, like snowbirds. And maybe they can't, afford to tip 20% every single meal that they get, because they're on a budget.
I think a lot of the French Canadians that are here are older.
Yeah.
Um, And maybe there are a lot of them. So I think like,
And I think older
Asian.
people in general aren't used to tipping this much. Like we said, like the tipping culture back home has gotten out of hand.
That's true. As a former server, I can say that older people would like hand you a toonie and a smile, like they've like a
A
toonie is a
toonie
$2 coin.
and a piece of gum.
Yeah, and then be like, "Here you go. Don't spend it all in one place."
Yeah.
So I don't like it
A
could
piece of
just be that
lint.
they're older, that they don't know that it's that they're not tipping enough. I don't know. But
Yeah.
also there are a lot of them, and whenever there's like a big population of a certain type of people, and they are a bit distinct from the English speaking American and Canadians, they just,
Mhm.
there's always gonna be bad apples,
Yeah.
maybe. If you're Mexican, you've had a bad experience, let us know. But it could just be that they stand out and, there's bad apples and that's like, poisoning the rep for everyone else. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I
I don't
really
know.
have no idea. I'm gonna watch my parents closely to see what's going on there because I have a few questions for them. But yeah, I really had no idea that it was that bad. If you know a little bit more about that, comment down
Do you
below.
want to apologize on behalf of your
I
gente?
apologize on behalf of my gente. Je m'excuse à tout le monde. But yeah, it was like shocking a
Thank
little
you.
bit.
Yeah, you need to like spread the word.
I need to spread the word. I need to I need to talk to the government. That's what I need to do. Moving on to our last comment. And of course, we had to keep the best for last. This one's really good. Let me just pull it up here. All right, guys, in regards to our 10 tips for Puerto Vallarta, Mexico travel 2024, this person said, too much time with the camera facing you. I want to see PV. You can talk without the camera for goodness sakes. Makes me turn your vid off. Get over yourself.
Oof.
And to that I say, I'm conceited, baby. I need as much camera time as I can.
French Canadians, eh?
Yeah. I'm cheap with my tip, but not with my camera time. And that was just funny. Yeah, we in that video we made an effort to put, B-roll shots like that. It is really difficult, just on a serious note to this comment. It is really difficult to have a video with only B-roll, so only like us shooting stuff, especially when we're talking about tipping or stop signs. Like I don't know
Yeah.
how many videos of stop signs you guys want to see. So I
And like
like the way it is now, where it cuts back and forth between us talking.
and also to that, like I know there are some very popular YouTube channels in Mexico out there that exclusively use stock B-roll,
Stock footage.
stock
Yeah.
footage that are edited into their videos. And I'm assuming that probably saves that person a lot of time because they can just,
Oh,
pick.
they don't, and a lot of people don't edit their own videos either. They have someone editing it using B-roll, which saves a lot of times. They just
Mhm.
have to talk, but
Everything that we show you,
yeah,
every B-roll that we show you is something that we filmed.
with
And
like the exclusion of, like in our last video, I think there's just an ATM that I didn't have a video of an ATM, which was super specific. So I'm like, let me throw in
it's
like a
hard to go
B-roll.
sneak up behind someone and watch them on the
Yeah, I
ATM
didn't
with
want
a
to be a
camera.
creep. So I put in that just because it like fit in well with what we were talking about. But it is a lot of work to edit some of these videos, even though they do seem pretty simple, even if it's just us talking. I put in a lot of time. I tried to make it as interactive as possible and to keep the viewers engaged. So um, at the end of the day, if you don't like our face, I don't know why you're
You can just
watching,
turn it
baby.
off.
Yeah, just turn it off.
And we do have a lot of videos like the walking tours that just show the city, the vlogs, and that kind of stuff. If you are interested in not seeing our faces but seeing footage, just
Mhm.
don't click on the podcast. Just don't click on the Q&As because it's going to be a lot of us.
Oh, FYI, if you've made it this far and you didn't realize it already, this is our faces. This is only face on the podcast. Like there's no B-roll.
Yeah.
There's
So
no other
there's
videos. So
nothing
don't
else.
watch the
We give
podcast
the
if
disclaimers as much as we can.
it's not because we're conceited, as I just mentioned. It's because this is a
Yeah.
podcast.
I
It
think if
doesn't
we were
show.
conceited, we would rewatch the videos and like I cannot watch this again. Like I will never watch the podcast after we
Yeah.
film it.
It's
And
hard for
Mark
me to
has to because
edit
he edits
too,
it.
and I watch things over and over to like edit it.
Yeah. And I have to put
Uh,
my earplugs in because I cannot hear myself.
yeah,
That's how not conceited we are. Like
yeah.
once this is out, uh,
Yeah, it's the exact opposite. Like we are over ourselves. We don't want to watch ourselves at all. But that's the nature of the game. Like doing YouTube, at the end of the day, this is our journey. So you're
it
going
is
to
our
see us.
diaries.
It's our diaries, more life diaries. Like this is, about us, about our life. And the goal is not at all to feel like we're better than anyone else. It's just really to be transparent about this move because we were, watching a lot of YouTubers before moving here. There were very little families doing this. It seemed out of reach for a long time to the point where, like, we had just accepted that we're not ever going to make a move like this until,
We did.
we did. And we just want to give, hope to those families or couples or individuals that do want to make this move. And we want to make it, very realistic for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
And
realistic goal.
yeah, to whoever left that comment, you're probably not watching because it's been a lot of face right now. So I'm sure you
2
turned it
minutes
off.
in, she's like, where's the B-roll?
Probably should have led with that one. But yeah, just there's other content out there of ours. There's other content out there of PV.
Yeah.
If it's really an issue.
Yeah, and also just in general in regards to this comment, and we get very little negative comments, so I'm very thankful to the people that do watch and the little community that we're building here.
Mhm.
A lot of positivity, which really keeps us motivated to put out more content. But if ever you do give feedback, there's a certain way to give feedback. This is not the way by just like being abrupt, being negative. Like there is a certain way that you talk to people in person, and it should be the exact same way online. So it just makes us laugh at the end of the day. We're not thin skinned by any means. Like we don't get offended very easily. Nothing. What? Except Kathleen.
I don't get
Maybe
offended.
this is why I answer all the comments.
Kathleen pops off.
I don't get
comments.
defensive. Like at the end of the day, this is just, our journey again is the transparency of what's been going on in our lives. So it is what it is. But if you have any critique or feedback, just know how to talk to people. If we were face to face, you wouldn't talk to us.
Yeah, you
like
wouldn't
that.
say get over yourself.
Yeah, you wouldn't be like enough with your face already. Like show us PV.
Yeah,
So
like-
there is a way, and I think people just forget that online is just like in person. Like you should know how to write to someone, just like you should know how to speak to someone.
Mhm.
So I know none of you guys watching this is for the fans. This is for our community, the podcast. That's why we keep doing this. We absolutely love you guys and thank you for tuning in. And if you've made it this far and you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. It helps us keep going and helps us keep motivated. And yeah, we just appreciate every single one of you.
Yes, thank you.
This is our journey. More Life Diaries. Peace.